Okay, welcome back. So, I did a Husky video recently, and I actually have another one in the works that'll be posted this weekend. I think I'm going to have to rename the channel the Husky channel because I brought home another one. Not just one, two. They were $70 each. I couldn't say no. These are probably in the worst shape of any Husky I brought home. And tonight will mostly be a triage night. So let me get them out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this one might be the better of the two. Jury's still out on this. It's mostly together. It does run, but needs to be choked. It does not make power, so that's a big strike against it. So I'm going to mostly focus on that on this one, to run a few tests, see if it can come back. If it can, or if it can't, I mean, that'll determine kind of how I proceed with the other one. A few things I noticed with this right away, besides the lack of power. The fuel filter is missing. Instead, they just got a tube where the fuel filter should be. Also, the wheels are both broken. Not exactly sure how this is supposed to attach to the hub, but it's not. These wheels are just on both sides completely busted. You know, I do have an extra set of wheels from another generator. The shaft is a little smaller, so potentially I could do something with those. You know, so anyway, that's this one. This is probably the better of the two. And then there's this one. It actually looks a little bit, well, I was gonna say it looks a little bit better, but I'm not sure. For some reason, this was kind of removed, and carburetor's removed. The wheels are good, and I have a box of parts, you know, so I got, I don't know what that is, the air box, and that's a clip. No filter element, so that's $22 right there. For some reason, the ignition coil was pulled off. He said, the guy I bought it from said that it ran with starting fluid, so I'm not sure why he would have pulled this off, or this for that matter. So there might be no spark. Well, there's definitely no spark now. Maybe the engine was seized and he was trying to free it up. I really don't know. Spark plug, carburetor, main jet's missing. There's the bowl. Yeah, so this carburetor is not complete. It's also missing the screw that goes on the bottom and the screw here. So this is a parts carburetor. I was going to clean it up, but I don't think I'm going to bother unless I need it for something. But I have two others from previous projects that I can just use on here. They're spotless inside. They do have that surging problem with no load, which I'm going to show how to fix in a video that's posting this weekend, so I can probably get those carburetors to be perfect. Right now, they're 95%, so it's good enough to run some tests. So I'm going to start with this one, and if this one ends up being just a parts generator, then it will donate its parts to get this one running. And I don't want to go crazy on this one until I hear it run and see that it can make power. So let's begin. Okay, so this is the one that doesn't make power. So the first test, which isn't the most accurate test, is to test this condition of the stator. To do it properly, you should take the end plate off the power head and test it directly. But those wires just come up to here. Of course, they go through some fuses and junctions, so the reading will be off, but I'm just looking to get a reading of around 0.02 to 0.06 and not be an open circuit. Yeah, so that's, 0.4. So somewhere between 0.4 and 0.6 is good. So that tells me there's no break in the wire. So I'm just going to check the other side, which is the other half of the stator. Perfect. So next I'm going to check the rotor. And for that I do have to pull off the end plate. So let's do that. I did loosen these already to spare you guys. Although this is still torture, so I'll probably edit some of this out. Okay, so for this test, I'm going to check the brushes and the ohms reading up here. These wires have to be removed. Usually the red is on the left, black's on the right. It's important to plug that in the right way. To get the best reading, you actually should be testing on the slip rings directly, but you can see it is difficult to get in there without pulling off the end plate. So, if I was doing it directly on the slip rings, I'd expect a reading around 60 or 70 ohms. Through the brushes, it'll be higher, maybe in the 200 range. But that's fine. I'm just looking to see that it's not open circuit. And if it is open circuit, that tells me either the brushes are bad or there's something wrong with the rotor. So let me pull those wires off and get the meter on there. Okay. These wires go to the AVR. So I guess depending upon how this tests will determine what we check next. Yeah. There's no reading. So it's either the brushes or the rotor. Now, this was used on a job site, so I'm hoping it's the brushes got worn out. But it's almost never the case. So let me put you down and try to get in here and get a reading. Okay, I just pulled the AVR off. It's just sitting on top here. I'm going to pull the brushes off next. I think it's good news. From what I can tell, the slip rings look very dirty. And I think I was able to get a reading around the 70 or 80 ohm range, but it was very intermittent because it's hard to get the slip rings. So I'm going to pull the brushes off and try to get a reading again. And I'll show you that if I can get that. Okay, so the brushes on the right are the ones I just pulled off. The brushes on the left I think are new. They may not be. They're actually from a Generac generator, but you can see they are identical, more or less. So I'm going to try putting this one on and see what happens. Good news. I think I got lucky here. So both of the new set of brushes on. Put the contacts on. and I get a reading of 65.5 ohms, which is perfect. So I think we dodged a bullet on this one. Okay, I was wrong. It's a common problem. That wire there, if it focuses, it's still on the slip ring, but it's loose. And because of that, the connection is intermittent. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of fresh solder on there, and that should fix the problem. For that, unfortunately, I need both my hands, but I will show you the result when it's done. Okay, as always, this took way too longer than it should have. I just don't think my soldering iron's hot enough, but I did finally get it, and it tests well. So I'm going to button it back up and continue this another day. Okay, it's a new night. I'm picking up where I left off on this. So I want to put this back together. I did stop by the hardware store and pick up a lot of the missing hardware, so I should be able to bolt it back together and get it ready for testing. One thing they don't sell at the hardware store is gaskets, and I do need 3 gaskets to get that carburetor back on. And for that, I am going to use this and cut my own gaskets. They won't be quite as perfect as the new ones, but they'll work fine. So to do that, I'm taking each piece that I need and making a template. So in this case, I just lay it out, hold the paper down and rub with a crayon until I get the outline. I then cut this out, including the holes, and then transfer that to the paper and then cut it out again. So I got to do that 3 times. This one here is going to be the gasket that goes right there, and then there's another one on the other side I need, and then one on the back of the airbox. So it's going to take a little while, but I'm going to do that tonight. Okay, for this, I got a spark tester connected. Also have the spark plug here, so you might be able to see that as well. So I'm going to switch this to on, give it a few tugs, and see if we get spark. Yep. Okay, battery's running low. I did grab my other spare carburetor and noticed it had a gasket that's in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to use that and save this for something else. Okay, just about done. I'm going to shut you down because my battery's almost dead. Just going to tighten that up, put the cover on. I do need to order a filter element. Carburetor's all set, spark plug's all set, governor spring's all set. I do need to add the fuel line and fuel filter, hook it up, and that should be that. Okay, this is the one that had the ignition coil removed, no fuel line, no fuel filter, the air blower housing off, carburetor missing parts, and just generally had no idea if it works or not. So there are a bunch of screws missing, so it's all buttoned back up. I still don't have an air filter. I do have the cover for the box. I'm going to run it now, see how it sounds, and put a load on it, see if it makes electricity. Alright, good news is the engine runs quite well, which I thought was the only problem. But it's not making a power like the other one, so I'm going to try to do a quick flash of the field. I'm sure it's probably not this, but I'll try the easy things first. Okay, so good news. First thing I noticed is the wires here on the brush set seem to be plugged in backwards. But more importantly, this is what the brushes look like. There's really nothing left. They're not making contact at all. But when I put the meter on the slip rings, I'm able to get a good reading. Okay, so I'm having trouble holding the meter leads here and recording, so you have to take my word for it. Get about 60 ohms. Okay, so I thought for sure it would be the brushes, no go. And I could, I was testing the voltage coming out of the AVR, and it was 110 volts DC, which is perfect. But it still wouldn't generate more than about 10 volts of power. And I started digging in, and pretty sure the stator is bad on this one, so I'm just going to part this generator out. I've already swapped the broken tires onto the generator, onto here, since this is just a trash generator. And if you look at the stator, you can kind of see what the problem is. All those ropes are supposed to be tied around the wires, and this stator overheated and all the ropes broke. And the color is very dark. And after running this for a few minutes, I could smell, kind of that coating that's on the wires. So I shut it off. I did touch the windings, and they were extremely hot. And definitely shorted out. So the stator's bad. Actually, the rotor on this one is good. I may potentially try to save that. The engine, I was thinking I would just sell the engine, but truthfully, the parts on the engine are worth more than I'd probably get for the whole engine with all the parts attached, like the recoil, the carburetor, the muffler. There's different pieces there that can be parted out, and I'll definitely make more money. Unfortunately, these engines are tapered shaft and not a good aftermarket for that, for engines with that on it. So anyway, I'm just going to finish taking the parts off of this that I want to keep and throw away the rest. And then I just need to finish up the carburetor work over there. But that one now makes power after reattaching the wire to the slip ring. And aside from just putting either cleaning up that carb, putting on a clean carb, that should be it for that one. Thanks for watching. Okay, so as we saw, the other generator, the stator was bad, so I moved over the good carburetor to here. New fuel line, fuel filter. And we moved the good wheels over to here. So this generator should be complete. I'm just going to run it for a while and make sure that the solder job I did holds. And then I'll just clean it up and sell it. it seems like the problems never end here. The voltage is too high, and the hertz is too high. So I'm going to try a different AVR, and hopefully that corrects the problem. Okay, so I pulled off the old AVR and put on the AVR from the other generator, which is now a parts machine. So let's see if this is any better, voltage-wise. And if it is, I'll just adjust the engine speed down to the right hertz. Much better. Okay, and the voltage is pretty good. It's like 116. And if I wanted to bring it up a little bit to 120, I could turn that potentiometer to the right. Might see if I can do that and get it a little bit closer to 120. Alright, just going to button this back up. Thanks for watching.